everyone knows Amber.
I work in events, right? I'm an event planner, orchestrator, gun for hire extraordinaire.
Now you are a true expert.
This is our 10th event in 2024.
Why?
I was motivated to find my place, my community, the people that I really connected with.
How to choose where to go and which are worth attention?
That's a really great question. I am now developing a
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. I'm here with Amber over again because a few months ago we met a Nomad Cruise and we've been sailing from Canada to Japan. Well, someone went from Canada to Japan. I went from Alaska to Japan. And I've been honored to work as a volunteer with Amber in a team. Doesn't matter who I talk to, everyone knows Amber. As I know, Amber is not super public person, but I hear all the time that, oh, I'm a friend with Amber, I'm friend with Amber. I would like to, in this nice conversation in Madeira Island, Nomad Island Fest, cheers. Thank you so much.
Absolutely. I'm excited to be here.
Would like to dive into the topic that fascinated me even more. The more I learned about Amber, the more I was thinking about the way Amber and her husband Steven spent their last year, which is going from traveling from place to place, visiting all possible digital nomad events or other typical ones. And if I'm not mistaken, you've been visiting like 10 events over the last year?
Yes, absolutely. Hi. Yeah, Stephen and I, my life and business partner, this is our 10th event in 2024. That doesn't include that we actually started in 2023, the kind of journey. So there were even more than that, but 10 just this year alone. First one was in Switzerland. It was a workation at Philippe's place in Switzerland. I can't remember the name of the event. Let's call it Swiss Nomad Fest. And then we went to Bansko Nomad Fest, and then we were on the sailing for Nomad Cruise from Canada to Japan. Oh, we also were at Bosnia Nomad Fest in July, and then we're virtual attendees at Niche Nomad Fest. We were in Fukuoka, Japan, for the event there. We did the reunion, the Nomad Cruise reunion, and now we're at Nomad Island Fest in Madeira Island with Michelle Marie and the Nomad Escape.
As I understand correctly, you're not only just visiting events or having fun, you actually volunteer in all of those events. I have a question. Why?
This is a valid question.
But for example, if there is always a reason behind why would you be interested in going on maximum events that you can and not only explore as a participant, but also you would join as a part of the team.
So this journey kind of started actually. Yes, please feel free to consume and beverage while I speak. So the journey started so I work in events, right? I'm an event planner, orchestrator, gun for hire extraordinaire. And about a year and a half ago, I was on a event. I was doing the online seller cruise, and I ran into Nora, the professional hobo, who was a guest of one of my speakers on the event. And she was like this kind of splashy all-star amongst this group of people because she was a digital nomad. She was traveling the world. She was doing all these things. And I was like, me too. At this point, I'd been a full-time digital nomad for about 4 years. And she was like, why aren't you like, you're in events, why aren't you in the world of digital nomad events? And I was like, huh, that's a good question. So I decided.
You did other type of events.
Yes. So I come from a background of doing like e-commerce events. I've done real estate events, all manner and shape, like women's empowerment events, all of the like international events. So I'm American if you can't tell. But that's the world that I kind of come from. And then but I have always loved that like particular energy that you get from an event. Um, and it took me a really long time to realize that what I was really like seeking in these spaces was a community of like-minded individuals. And I discovered that I had been doing events in the entrepreneur space. So it was entrepreneurially minded people. But like, I don't sell on ecom. Like, I'm not like, I didn't fit with a lot of those groups. And so I decided in 2023 with Bansko Nomad Fest, and Nora was like, you have to come. This is the next one on the agenda. Gotta do it. And I was like, okay, I'll do it. I'll go to Bulgaria. I've never been to Bulgaria. I'll go to this event, see what it's all about. So that was my very first Nomad event. And yes, it was Bansko Nomad Fest 2023. I came as an attendee, never met anyone in this space. Like, I knew Nora. And that was it. Bansko Nomad Fest, as I'm sure many people know, is one of the larger events, and that was true. I think at that time that was like they had the most attendees that year that I went, and I showed up. I met all of these people. It was all of this craziness, and it was like I was finally amongst, digital nomads. And I was like, wow, I've been a digital nomad this whole time. I travel with my partner, so I don't struggle with a lot of the like loneliness that I think is kind of endemic in the digital nomad scene. But I do still like to find my people. And so I showed up and I was like, oh, wow, this is cool. And I saw people volunteering at the event. And it was all like, there's a lot of talk about, and I think they had 120 volunteers that year. And there was a lot of talk about this is what people do, is that, this is how digital nomad events work. And I was like, where do I sign up? Thus began the journey of pretty much every time I went to an event, I would hear about another event and I would be like, well, okay. I mean, I have a really specific skill set in that I do events. I know about events. I'm really skilled in that area. And so I'm a pretty big value add on a volunteer staff. And I thought it was really cool to see what everybody was doing and how each of these kind of events was different. Each of these events was like from the structure of the event to the community and the quality and the different types of people that show up at these events, what they're bonding over, what they're not bonding over, whether it's woo-woo, whether it's not woo-woo, if there's like actual presentations or if it's all workshops. And so the journey kind of kept going. I went from Bansko Nomad Fest to then immediately joined my first Nomad Cruise. That was the 2023 Spain to Brazil. I volunteered on that one. First time. So I went to Bansko Nomad Fest and I was like, okay, this is the way. And then so immediately I was like, okay, well, you can volunteer. I'll volunteer. I had met Johannes at Bansko Nomad Fest. I have a tendency, you did say this, that everybody knows me. I do have a tendency to talk to people and to meet people and to just sort of present and say hi, which goes, pretty well in this community.
Yeah.
So
Community appreciates talking.
yeah, right. Community appreciates community, and I mean that's something that like I even do workshops on is networking and how to like meet and make productive connections. So I went to Nomad Cruise. I volunteered for Nomad Cruise and was like, oh, this is even cooler. It's a smaller event than, because I had just come from Bansko Nomad Fest. It was a smaller event. And then I think there's, somewhere around 300 people. We're all trapped on a boat. I had been doing events on cruise ships like myself. And so it was actually interesting to see like how they had done it differently.
What is the name of the event that you do?
So it doesn't happen anymore. It was called Online Seller Cruise, for people who sell on Amazon and do e-commerce. That's where a lot of my annual events happen. And again, I'm like a gun for hire in those situations. So it's not me, it's not my audience. I'm just bringing all of the expertise around the event itself. So online seller cruise, it was a week-long cruise and sailing, and there's a lot of complicated things that go into planning an event on a cruise ship. Like you think, we're in Nomad Island Fest and it's like an island. So that offers its own challenges and like limited facilities, limited things. That's even more so on a ship. So I joined that one, met all of that amazing group of people, both the Nomad Cruise, Nomad Base community, as well as the Nomad Base, Nomad Cruise team, which was like a particular cool aspect. It was my first time volunteering on a cruise or like on any of the events. And it was like, wow, this is so much more awesome because like the way that I enjoy an event is by being a part of the team on an event. And so having the opportunity to be like, oh, cool, I get to join this event. I get to come in and do all of these things. That was really exciting. And I was like, give me more. So I immediately, when they announced the next cruise, on that cruise, I was like, where do I sign up? I'm volunteering on that one. Let's do this. Meanwhile, I also had gotten in touch with the new owners of Bansko Nomad Fest. And they actually, so from Bansko Nomad Fest 2023 to 24, they brought me in to organize and execute Bansko Nomad Fest 2024, which opened up all of these other connections and was amazing. It was a really interesting. So
Right in the heart.
yes, it basically plugged me into kind of the pulsing heart of the digital nomad community. I mean, Bansko is like that. That's just, I mean, everybody goes to Bansko. Thank you, Matthias. And so I think that was the first time you and I connected. I met Michelle Marie. I talked to all of these people.
I haven't been to Bansko.
Oh my gosh. Well, you should go to Bansko. That's funny. I didn't know that. It was really interesting to go. So to go in 2023, having not been a part of the scene, to literally a year later, to go and be in the role that I was in and having met, I mean, there's like 1,000 people there for the event, and there's probably 300 people involved, like actually involved in the event. And I know all of them. So like I'm walking around this tiny town in Bulgaria where I have only been once before, and I knew no one when I was there. And now I'm like, oh, hey, like I can't walk out my door without everybody, like without just knowing everybody. It's like the Truman Show or something. That was a really cool experience. And again, kind of gave me more. So I continued with going and either speaking or volunteering at all various different events. So I am now, this is at Nomad Island Fest, where I am a volunteer. Thank you, Anastasia and Michelle. You're amazing. Yeah, this is, I think, the fourth or fifth type, like, producer event in the digital nomad space that I have gotten the chance to be inside of.
So what's the next? This sounds great, but I know it's expensive just to travel from travel event to event. And what is what you're trying to achieve, if I may? I'm very asking direct question, sorry. is like what is so first of all this is fascinating for me because right now you are true expert of any of like how the digital nomad event work, how they organize, what topics they have there, what is the quality of organization is, what kind of people come in there. So you gain this expertise through the hard work of working as a volunteer at all of those events. How are you going to shape that experience and what you're gonna bring, what you're gonna use it for, if you can share, of course.
Well, a part of the, like, I don't think in the beginning it was necessarily like a mission, like I didn't have a master plan going in. And I mean, like, I'm not like an evil mastermind, so I don't have a master plan necessarily. However, I was motivated to find my place, my community, the people that I really connected with, and try and be doing something that I'm passionate about doing, which is bringing people together in creative ways, places, spaces, learning, connecting, things of that nature. So as a part of my journey around and through all of these things, I've had the opportunity to work with the Bansko Nomad Fest team and organizers. I am now also a part of the Nomad Cruise team in a more codified way. So that's really my goal, is to be exactly that, like to find that unifying theme between all of the communities and all of the events, and be able to be sort of an anchor point, and also maybe in the future draw together some of the like more connected to me elements from each of the events in order to, I don't know, do cool fun stuff in the future. I mean, there's no like grand plan, but there's a bunch of different things and projects that I'm working on that hopefully will be actually in collaboration with a lot of these event producers that are currently doing things, as well as in my own space. And one thing that's actually a very exciting project that I am launching in January of 2025, that has kind of come out of being a part of all of these, is a realization, or I guess an awareness that I want to see more women on these stages. I think there are just as many women who are experts in all of these, everything that we're talking about. Women are 50% of the world. We're going to be 50% of the experts, So I am now developing a women in business speaker training. So that is something that will continue to kind of be offered on any project that I'm a part of, that can be now like available to people, so that hopefully I can help. That can be like my giving back to the community, is helping women in the digital nomad and entrepreneurial space to kind of hone their message and get their expertise out there in some ways. And you never know, that could eventually be a women in business or digital nomad women summit in-person event myself. We'll see.
Congratulations with the launch.
Thank you.
That's a big thing.
It's called the Women on Stage Collective,
Okay.
if anybody wants to find it.
We're gonna share the link and all the information because this is the first time we hear as well. I hear as well about that. I mean, this is amazing. Can I ask you a question about your experience in events that it connected to the normal world, like business world, like big Las Vegas events that brings like massive amount of people and requires massive amount of money to organize that. And now you are connected with a smaller type of events that usually organized by passionate people, and because of the passionate about this community. And none of these events don't have millions of business corporate budget. And so the options are also limited, but also it's not corporate about corporate companies. What is the main difference you see between those big companies and nomad type of organizations. What I mean is that sometimes I would feel that organization is quite sometimes basic. I'm sorry, guys, no judgment. But it can be, but in some cases it feels like that. And in some cases, it's just different from other part business type of organization. What's the big difference you see, and what you actually like about digital nomad events compared to business events?
Yeah, so that's actually a really great question. So yes, I have experience in both the big flashy $1 million events, like I actually have another event in Vegas. It's not my favorite. This coming March. But so those events, you kind of have a more standardized structure a lot of the time. You can play with it in some ways, but I hesitate to say this. They get a little lazy. And it's like, yeah, throw money at it. Okay, we'll put some pyrotechnics in there, and that's how they add interest. And they don't feel the need to be quite as creative in the ways that they're doing things. Like, for instance, Nomad Island Fest that we just completed. Michelle's doing this thing. She calls it business bingo. It's brilliant. It's like a rotating kind of spotlight. You get 30 seconds up on stage, but it requires a lot of like moving parts. So it maybe doesn't come across quite as polished as you would find at, like a big, huge event with like Tony Robbins or something. But it shows a lot more innovation and like intentional thought and development that goes into it. So like I see in these digital nomad events and spaces that it's like there's this bootstrap quality, like we're scrappy. And yes, it might not be as polished. Yeah, it might not be as organized. Yeah, your event app is going to crash. And, like there's going to be problems. That's somewhat the nature of events. However, what I see going right in so many of these spaces is that like that innovation, that like, yeah, we can do it. And the community support is like unmatched. You have like raving fans that are just avidly going to be there and be supportive and be understanding and be totally into it. Whereas at these kind of like higher dollar, higher everything, I mean, one of the annual events I do is $5,000 ticket, so like this is not small things.
$5,000 ticket?
Yeah, yes. This year it's in Iceland, and there's like super jeeps and volcanoes and helicopters and, pyrotechnics. So it's with that level of investment and with that level of funding, it's a very different experience. So it is in that luxury class, but what they don't have is that community support. What they don't have is that like, we're all working really hard for this. We want it, like, so that's what is drawing me towards the digital nomad events, is that there's a lot more freedom for creativity and innovation, and we're all in it togetherness.
I can agree. It's different audience where you feel like who you want to hang out with.
Yeah.
That's the biggest event. I went to Las Vegas last year for another work that I do, and it's like big place, and people just like so businessy, and they're chatting with you like, yeah, send me email, but then you understand that you walk away, people don't really care about what they talk about. And when you talk about with digital nomads, doesn't matter which conversation, it turns out into ideas, support, It's like, I will help you. Let's talk about it. I will connect you. You should do it. This is a great idea, or this is dumb idea. Depends on the conversation. But it's always, there is a genuine connection and feedback that happening. And even if it's nothing turns out into any future sales, you have a great conversation for inspiration. That's what I love about digital nomad events.
No, absolutely.
I know that you travel not alone, and you travel with your husband. And
We're not married.
okay.
We've been together for 10 years.
With your parents, but you've been together for 10 years.
Yeah.
Traveling all around from event to event is very exhausting. I cannot take it. Like I'm old for this. I could take it when I was 28, but right now I'm like once per while. I love all of the events, but it's actually time and energy. It's energy consuming. It's a lot of energy. You get it out, and then it's a lot. Can be a lot. So how you manage actually to travel together? Is it like so supporting? How is it for him? Because he's also volunteering, working with you.
Most of the time, yeah.
And that kind of conversations and decisions was based on not only your decision or your desires, based on both of your desires. And for the record, there is a commitment issues all around the digital nomad community, and people cannot try to find the partner or husband or love and travel for a long time. Here's the couple that has been traveling for many years, 10 years together, working together as a volunteer at many events, and keep doing that. So can you please shed the light on the secret sauce for that?
Secret sauce to not killing each other.
Yeah.
As digital nomads running around working events. Yeah, so Stephen and I call him my life and business partner. We sort of launched into digital nomadism together about 5 years ago, and have been full-time nomads, full-time together. Which I didn't realize was odd. There's actually a number of things about the way that we do things that I didn't realize was atypical until I started meeting more nomads. And I was like, oh, yeah, commitment issues. Cool. I mean, that's cool. I get it. Freedom loving. I'm freedom loving too. But that's something that Stephen and I, so to address the second question first, we sometimes will volunteer together, sometimes not. More so these days, we are volunteering together because we are a team, and it's something where we work better together than we do apart. And that's, I think, a pretty special and unique connection. That, I mean, gotta kiss a lot of frogs before you find your prince. I feel very lucky to have found him, and I think he feels the same way. But that's something where you have to really stay very in sync and very on the same page. In terms of like, do we want this? Do we not want this? Are we so over this? Those kinds of things. So communication is really what it is, I think, is you just gotta be really clear and really like, no, I'm not gonna like compromise on this. Like, if we don't both actively really want this, then we're not doing it. And then the first question was kind of about how on earth does anyone do this many events this constantly and have the energy for it, and much less because it's actually a really good point, and I don't think about it. Like I would consider myself an introvert, which is,
Oh, really?
yes, which is kind of comical. But I'm a battery operated person. So I have social batteries, and I've discovered they last about a week, nonstop, 24/7, 1 week. I can be around people. I can do an event. I can be pedal to the metal for one whole week. And then I have to crash for at least like, I don't know, a few weeks. And I turn into a total hermit. So like everybody sees the sparkly amber that's out here doing this, and then I recede into my shell and just like restore my solar batteries. But that's something that is like, it's different working an event. It's different. So like, also I want to say this for anybody who's like tuning in, be nice to your event staff. Like, be nice to the people who are trying to create these experiences, because they work so, so hard. And as much as like attending an event can be really draining, it's really rewarding, but it's also really draining energetically. You only go to the things that you want to go to. So like, you as an attendee or a participant can actually take some time off. You have off-duty time. A volunteer or a staff for an event, like an organizer, or much less the like event producer. How many event producers do you know that go away and hide during their event? It's a lot of them. But they have to be on 24/7, you know, ready to deal with whatever it is. And that takes a lot. It takes a monumental amount of like effort and intention. And it also kind of takes a certain sort of person. Like, you have to, because events break people, like legitimately break people. So think about that before you volunteer.
You said that your battery has like 1 week length and then you crash. Here's the problem. Almost the next Nomad Cruise event is gonna be 1 month.
It's true.
What are you gonna do?
I won't be on that one.
Okay, or the Nomad Cruise that we've been at last
What
month.
happens if the event is longer than my battery? I have to be really conscientious of that, because I also find that like, if I find myself depleted and empty, you have to find things. I mean, it's the same thing as like burnout and those kinds of things. So you have to find the things that recharge you and, you know, replenish you. So for me, sometimes I go in my room and I just stare at a wall. I turn my phone off for an hour and I say, I'm sleeping. And I just don't speak to anybody. And I try and measure out my like socialization. Sometimes that's actually doing the reverse and diving, it's like a lovely crackling fire over here. Sometimes that's actually diving into the things and the conversations and things like that. It's like when I get off shift, it's actually sitting down and having a meaningful conversation with somebody, making those connections. Like, that's what fills my cup, you know? And so even though I am an introvert, and they say introverts are like, oh yeah, like I deplenish my batteries, as like, I sit there and I find a fascinating person and I just ask them questions. Like, I do. And I listen to stories and I feel uplifted, and that helps me to recharge.
What have you learned on the Nomad events over the last year? Maybe some. Okay, I have different topics. One is that what are the main top discussed topics of the digital nomad events, and top type of people that attending those events?
That's a really great question. So let's start with the top people that come to events, is specifically digital nomad events. Is a lot of it is aspirational. So it's folks who want what those of us who claim it already and are living it have. They want the freedom. They want the digital nomad lifestyle. They don't really know what that means. And that feels sort of unattainable. So they're kind of like, I used the term, they're sniffing butts. Uh, like they're just trying to get to know, like, what does this even mean? What does it look like? So those are the people that probably haven't launched their business yet or are still maybe in like a location-based kind of employment model. And trying to get outside of that in some fashion. So I would say that's maybe like 10% on average, you know, depending some events, like I think for instance Bansko Nomad Fest, and the topics that they're most interested in is like how it's those kind of how-tos, how to start a business, how to start selling services, how to travel, how to book cheap places for whatever amount of time, how to use credit card points. I think that's probably useful and interesting for everyone. The other kind of main section of it is, let's call them just getting by nomads. And I mean, like, I have very much so been in this category for most of my existence, is the folks who have figured something out for themselves, right? They have a business, they have an income. I mean, sometimes that business is like, I'm an influencer. Sometimes that business is, I do headshots online for dogs, or, you know, like it's not, most people don't do the same things for money, but each person has kind of figured it out in their own little way, like whatever their thing is. They know how long they usually stay. They know what their pace is. They've been doing it for a little while. They're in like a sustainable but not growth model. Those folks
Figure it out.
yeah, it's like, okay, I'm doing it, you know, like just don't tip me over and I'll be fine. Like I could do this for years and years. That kind of group of people is generally more interested, I think, in coming to these events, less so for the learning from the actual like presentations and speakers. Like I think that there is a lot of learning that they can get from those, but it's more so they're there to connect. They're there to meet other nomads so that they can travel with them. They're there for romance. That's the thing. And they're there to find collaborations, find ways to grow their income and their way of doing things. And then the like cream of the crop, if you will, I think are the, you know, the folks who really nailed it. Who've really nailed it. They're like maybe 10 years plus nomads, and they're millionaires and they're really doing well. I'm not saying that these things all have to be true for the same people. Like sometimes those folks, you know, I mean, it's difficult to be a 6-7 figure business as a location independent entrepreneur. Some people have figured it out. Most of the people who figured it out a long time ago and really nailed it. So it's really difficult in this day and age to do that same thing, I think. But so that group of people, they're actually here because they want to meet the bulk, right? They want to meet the people who aren't right at their level so that they can help to like grow their business. They're looking to mentor people. They're doing that kind of thing. So they are also there almost always, I find, with these folks. They don't go to the talks. They don't do any of the things. They're just there to have conversations with people. Which means that there should be more like networking and more workshops and like connection oriented things, which is a trend that I'm seeing happening a lot in a lot of the Nomad events, is that it's shifting less so from like a standard presentation model to how do we connect? How do we enhance the like the networking and the connections and the collaborations and the partnerships that come out of these events?
What did you learn for yourself? Is there anything that you gained for you personally?
I learned that everybody has a inherent talent, superpower, and value, myself included, that oftentimes they don't know and only can really be seen when viewed by somebody else. And events is a perfect place for it. Go to an event, be out there, just have these conversations, and you'll discover that superpower.
I love that. I really love this, the whole setup that your life is basically all around events. So you travel, but you travel on purpose. We call it. You travel on purpose.
Yeah.
That has been missing for me for some time. When I travel just for the experience, then I was looking for some reason why I travel. So I think that's why also I launched the Nomad Gossip magazine, so I can travel with purpose. Now I travel to events and go and talk to people, so I can have a purpose with the travel. So you found your purpose on traveling, that you combined your profession, which you did for many years, I believe have a great experience, and now you combined with your way of life, which is traveling and meeting cool people and connecting with the different nationalities, and that all of that part together. You're still on the way, I believe.
Yep.
You're still on the way to figuring it out how this on transition. But from my perspective, your transition was very smart.
Oh, tell me more.
I told to many people, go to the event. When they're like, oh, how I do this, how I did this. Like, go to the event, you're gonna figure it out. You understand that we're sitting in the whole dark? It's okay.
Just listen to the sound of it.
Yeah, just listen to the sound. So, and what you did is actually really smart. First, you said like, I need to go to the event. Okay, I will go to the event. I need to volunteer to understand how it works, and everyone, like, okay, I will go to volunteer and understand how it works. You need to meet people and understand how the market works. Like, okay, I will go to all of that. So instead of like, you have an idea, you're like, okay, I will do it, and you do it. And that's brilliant to me. And you did it not only once or twice, you did like 5 times. Literally. And then another 5, I believe, that not connected to digital nomad events. So that is fascinates me that you reached this golden level of combination of your passion, career, and lifestyle. And today we listened of Ken Honda that was talking about that if you find your happy spot and you enter and you know how you give back, then you enter the happy money, and then money goes fly back to you. First of all, do you believe in that? And does that work for you so far, or you see some trends that it can work so far of having your happy money? Because I believe you found your spot.
I had never heard of the happy money concept until he was on, like Ken Honda was on stage today. So it's somewhat of a new idea to me. I do very much so have like, I think of it as kind of like law of attraction in some ways, is if I'm doing something and it makes me happy and I'm giving value in a way that I feel good about, it tends to attract money to me. So yes, I guess I do believe in the happy money concept. It also means there's sad money, which I also get behind that as a concept because I feel like I've made some sad money in my life.
Las Vegas?
Yeah, Las Vegas being one of them. I promise I wasn't a showgirl. But yeah, I do think like I love how you are doing something similar, in that you have found something that you find passion and inspiration from, and you're going around and you are connecting all of these people because you're following quite a similar journey to me. Like, I keep seeing you at all of these events. But I do think that that's the secret sauce, right? Like, that's the money spot, is like, find something that makes you happy and pays your bills, right? Like at that point, maybe work stops feeling like work and work becomes something that you do because you love it.
I think we should wrap it up because it's getting very dark, and there is a party happening soon on Nomad Island Fest. Is a closing queens and queens, and we need to find our crowns. So is there anything that I didn't ask you about, but you would like to add from yourself? That's my favorite question that people use.
I want to encourage people to understand that events can and should take you places in your business and in your life that you can't get to on your own. This is the reason why you go to an event. It's to be able to find the right people, find the right thing that lights you up inside. And like Valeria and like me, you can actually, like, so long as you're willing to go take the risk and go to an event, go join a community, go to a meetup, you can actually really find and do what makes you happy in life. So go to an event.
Okay, we have actually in the second edition we have a list of 13 events, which is not full list because more events popping up, and because Nomad events they usually plan maybe 4 or 5 months in advance. We are teaching them slowly to plan it a little bit earlier so we can include them into the magazine. But yeah, it's gonna be in Brazil in March, in Vietnam in March, in January Nomad Summit, then in summer Mediterranean Nomad Cruise in Bansko in June in Bulgaria, then the 1 month long in Nomad Cruise, and to Australia in October, and then I'm sure they're going to be in Athens Nomad Fest, Nomad Island Fest in December. What I forgot?
There's Swiss Nomad Fest. There's Swiss Nomad Fest in Switzerland, or Snowmad Fest in Switzerland. There's also potentially another large-scale event that hasn't even been announced. I won't tease too much, but Thailand. Speaking of Thailand, there's Beach Meets Non-Conferences with Joe Fallon. There's also Armonia Retreat, which is Stefanos and Eva's new thing. That's going to be happening in Cyprus. So there's an amazing amount of things. There's something for everybody. You should check nomadretreats.com for all of those events.
We actually have we partnered up with Nomad Retreats for the first edition. We have the page of the Nomad Retreats collaboration with them. I have actually another question. Okay, before we close up. Okay, well, you see this old list, and I imagine like you know how and who organize this, and you have understanding what is this kind of events and where you want to go and where you don't want to go. How can people from outside world, like, okay, this massive amount of events, like how to choose where to go and which are worth attention. I mean, they're all worth attention, but you know,
Which one's gonna match?
Which would gonna match? Do you have any suggestions or tips on that?
Yes. Take a look inside and figure out what it is that, like, why you're going. Like, are you going to make advances in your business? If so, go to the smaller retreat style things. Go to like Nomad Escape events. Those are going to be the sort of, they're smaller, they're more intimate, they're designed around business growth. If you're looking to find community, if you're feeling lonely, if you want to be more like invested in that, if you like to party, go to the kind of bigger, a bit looser type of things that are more around the lifestyle. That's something like maybe Bansko Nomad Fest. That could also potentially be Digital Nomad Summit or the Nomad Summit in January. If you are wanting somewhere in between those things that's a bit more of a balanced experience, that's going to be something like Nomad Cruise. I would also say if you're a business person, I would be looking at Nomad World and Nomad Escape, that kind of thing. But that's ultimately is what you should look at, is look at how many, like if you're going for social reasons or if you're going for business reasons, and that's a lot of what will help you to decide those different things.
Okay, guys, thank you so much for listening until now. I really enjoyed this conversation, even though we're sitting in the dark. It's already dark outside. We had a beautiful sunset. Thank you so much for your time. I really loved meeting Amber in Nomad Cruise, and then in the bus on Cliff Fukuoka. Sorry, we've been on Cliff Fukuoka in Japan, and then I didn't see her the whole time. She wasn't there, and then I entered in the bus, and then she's sitting there. So,
Sit next to me.
if you next time enter the bus and see Amber, say hi for me, please.
Come say hi.